What's Up podcast. How's everyone doing? Or how's everyone doing? How's you doing?
Yeah, I know. Where is everyone? There's nobody else here. It's just us.
Yeah, it's just us. So,
Just us today.
Yeah.
I think that I'm doing great.
Yeah, you think you're doing great?
I think I'm doing.
I know I'm doing great because Jonathan Tace is coming back to the
Oh,
NHL.
you true.
Winnipeg Jets, man. Winnipeg Jets.
It's been a big week for hockey in terms of trades. You got Mason Marchment going to
It's
Seattle.
as soon as the playoffs were done.
Everyone just hopping on that train. They want to get it. They want to get it in and out quickly, which is good because you get to see because hockey is still relevant now.
Yeah, it is. It is still relevant, and
Which is what you want to see.
it's entertaining. That's
Exactly.
for sure. And another thing we got to address: Florida Panthers Stanley Cup champions.
Sorry.
Yeah,
But the thing
personally,
is
I don't mind, but we called it last time. What did
Yeah.
we? I can't remember exactly what we predicted.
I called it. I said Sam Bennett was going to win that Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
Because he is that value player that they needed.
Yeah, I didn't really expect Edmonton to win.
No, I think
I did think it was going to go to Game 7. I did not think they were going to shut it out in Game 6, but
I think Florida was built to win the cup. That whole team is just built because they are guys that will get in on your D and will screw with you in the corner, but then they'll also score on you right after, which I think is just a team that's built for it.
yeah. Another thing we got to address is last episode how
Yes.
yeah, we didn't post it on Sunday.
Nope. Missed the date.
Yeah. We
Even though
had
we
to do a lot of technical stuff, so audio was echoey because we had all our mics. So now we're going to be using one.
Yeah, we're still working out a lot of the kinks,
Yeah.
the technical side of this, but I think now we've gotten to the point where we see what works and what doesn't work, and now I think we're gonna have that episode ready for you, and we're gonna do a double upload with this one coming out, and obviously we have this disclaimer in here now. We'll probably put another one in the other one, but also if you haven't checked out the other one, check it out first.
Yeah,
before
check
coming
that
out this
one out
one,
first.
because that one kind of starts off this whole.
Yeah, it introduces everybody. It shows our schedule, or at least our agenda, which today we are breaking.
Yes.
Because today we're going to be focusing on the NHL draft,
And
which is happening next week.
We're going to be looking at our mock drafts to see kind of how ours stack up. And we also have Craig Button's mock draft as well, who is probably one of the most reliable sources when it comes to this stuff. And so we're just going to see how it stacks up. And then we're going to go into next week, and we're going to look at our mock drafts and see kind of where our stacks up versus the actual draft.
Yeah, so we're going to be watching the actual draft here next Friday. So it's not going to be posted Sunday. It's going to be posted Friday. We're going to be watching the draft, and we're going to be comparing our lists, seeing who gets, I guess, the most right.
Yeah.
It could be a possible Sunday upload. We're going to try and see if we can get it out Friday to make it so that, draft just happened. I would rather do it live, but it's too much of a mess up. So
yeah, it's too much.
It's either it gets posted Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but you'll see it within those 3 days at least, hopefully. And
yeah, I think it's just time to get right into the mock draft.
so we'll get straight into the mock draft, starting off with the New York Islanders first overall pick, first overall pick,
which was a surprise.
Yes,
jumped up
I
a
was
few
not
spots.
expecting that.
No,
They jumped from 10th. This draft was different because you could only jump up 10,
yeah,
and Islanders were 10th,
exactly.
and they got the pick, so obviously they jump up first, knocking everybody else down one.
And I think that they could have. I think this could be a big turning point for their franchise because they have not done much since those golden ages of the '80s. They have not done much.
Yeah.
But I think this can definitely help them turn it around with having a first overall pick that will build their future. With that being said, so at least for me, I went Matthew Schaefer. I think he is hands down the best prospect out of this entire draft class. Just the most complete player who's ready to take the next step. I think he showed it internationally. Obviously, he got hurt in the World Juniors, but I think up till that point, he was one of the best players on that Canadian roster. And I think I think his game will really translate to the next level.
Yeah, I agree. I chose Matthew Schaefer as well. I do think that they're not going to let Schaefer drop lower. They're going to go for the first. They're going to go for the best available, and I do think they're going Schaefer. I don't see a world where they don't. The only other possible option is probably James Higgins, which doesn't make a little sense.
That hometown.
Yeah, hometown relation. Other than that, I don't see a world where they don't choose Schaefer.
And I think that obviously they do have Noah Dobson now, who is a great first defenseman, but I think he's just not there right now that they would not where they would like him to be. And I think they might keep him around, maybe not trade him this year, or I think maybe when his contract ends. I don't know exactly when it ends, but maybe when the contract ends, as long as he's there until Schaefer gets settled, I think that they will eventually get rid of him. I think because they'd rather have Schaefer over him, and I think that's
Yeah,
where they're
I,
going.
I agree. I think they could definitely get a better forward, or like a good forward to help their core, for Dobson,
Exactly.
with keeping a good, like, not Dobson level defense, but like, a good defenseman that they could at least rely on, as similar to Dobson. But yeah. What is Craig Button's?
Craig went Schaefer
Yeah,
overall first.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either. I think honestly, Schaefer is just he's that guy. Everyone's known about him for the past couple of years. He is going to be a generational player.
Yeah.
So number 2,
Number 2, San Jose Sharks.
Michael Misa. I went Michael Misa for number 2 overall because I think he has lit up the OHL. He has played amazingly for that Saginaw team that obviously went and won the Memorial Cup last year. I think that he is a great second overall pick and can really work well with that Will Smith and Ackland Celebrity dynamic. Throw him in there. I think he's going to have a bit of trouble with that diva aspect he has to him, that kind of locker room cancer effect that he's got kind of going around him. Mm-hmm. But I think he's still going to produce to the point where that's going to be kind of a forgotten memory. And I think he's still going to be that guy for them.
Yeah, I agree with the whole locker cancer diva, I guess, saying. But I do think that's not going to matter for San Jose, because their locker room chemistry and, like, the young guys, they're just having fun. They're just going out there and they're playing. Like, they don't mind if they're last place. They don't mind. They don't care. They're going out there. They're having fun. They're trying to become better, and they are going to get better. And I think Misa's going to slot in, like, basically perfectly with that group.
I think that team, you look at their prospects, I think they're going to be a scary team in maybe not next 2-3 years, maybe even 4 or 5, but you got guys like Askarov, that goalie prospect from I think it's Russia or something like that. He's going to be a great goalie, and I think he's going to really backstop that team. Then obviously you got Will Smith, you got Matt Celebrini, now you're going to have Michael Misa in there. I think you're just missing kind of maybe a defense that you can build off of.
I think they do go off. I definitely think they do go after defense going forward after this draft, because I don't think they're going to skip over Michael Misa. If Higgins gets taken first, I do think they're 100% taking Schaefer, because they're going to want that defense being built as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But obviously Schaefer being like slotted in first, I'm not going to be surprised if they take Misa second.
Yeah.
After Schaefer, like I'm not surprised.
I think San Jose, obviously they'd like to prefer to have a defense in there, but I think in terms of, you just can't deny how good Misa is.
You can't let that fall lower.
Exactly, and even the next available defense after Schaefer is what?
Radim Murtka.
And
which he's really good, but I don't see him going anywhere in the top 5.
I don't think he's going top 5, and I think you just have to take Misa there.
Yeah, you can't miss that.
You can't deny how good he's been.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think you do that. And so Craig, again, Michael Misa, no surprise there. I think he's just that guy. He's that good. He's that great value scorer that you're looking for in a guy like Michael Misa.
Yeah. For number 3, the Chicago Blackhawks, my personal favorite team, I think they're going Anton Frondel. Only reason I think so, my 2 options were Porter Martone and Frondel. Both aggressive, tall, big power forwards. I think Frondel has more of a stronger hold on himself than Martone does. I think he can win more battles. From what I've seen, he can win more battles. He's done better in the combine, which again isn't the best case at looking at players, but definitely does help. And I do think he is just a step better than Martone. I like Martone better as a player, just like personality wise, and I like the way he can, he can be that Marner to the Matthews. He can assist Bedard in the playmaking sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Frondel will be good because they need a good power strong forward. They only have that really in Nick Foligno. Yeah, Nick Foligno. Yeah. Oh my god, but yeah, they're only strong guys. Their captain, Nick Foligno.
And he's getting older.
Maybe Dickinson, but he gets injured every fight. He gets injured in every fight. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't. So anyways, they need Frondel. I think just that little aspect stronger than Martone. But yeah, I think Frondel is definitely the stronger of the 2.
So for me, I went Martone here.
Yeah,
I still think that's a great pick for them. I think that he is obviously, because you already have that pure goal scorer in Bedard that they want to build their whole kind of team around. So that's why I think you go Martone here, because you got that that playmaking ability that he has. Because he's obviously not the flashiest. He's still big enough to go to those dirty areas that I think they will want to turn him into. He obviously doesn't do that now with Brampton, but I think he will turn into that guy. I think he will become that Matthew Nyes,
Yeah.
that guy that can win you a battle down low, bring the puck out, and then give it to your star, which I think is exactly who they want. Craig went Frondell with you. He agreed. He agreed with you.
Yeah.
And I think I think I can definitely see why they take Frondell. Obviously, I just think Martin's a little bit
Yeah.
more on that playmaking side that they would want.
Yeah. So number 4, Utah Mammoth. I think James Higgins, only because I don't think he drops any lower than that. He is projected to be 3rd. I don't see Chicago taking Higgins. Like, again, I don't think he fits that aspect that Chicago's looking for. So I do think he drops from 3rd to 4th. I just don't think Utah lets Higgins drop to 5th or 6th. I think they just go after Higgins immediately. He will fit in with Cooley, with those players. I think he will definitely fit on the power play, possibly. I don't know if he jumps straight into the NHL. I don't exactly know too much on how, like, I don't know how ready he is. But I do think Higgins definitely slots into that team well. I don't think he drops lower.
For me, this is where I went Frondell.
Yeah.
Because everything you talked about with that big power forward, I think he could fit in great with that Utah lineup already. Because you got those pure goal scorers, you got Cooley, you got Gunther, you got Keller, and I think you slot him into that kind of power forward role. You put him in front of the net on a power play. I think that's a deadly combination. I think he is going to do numbers for them, and I think he's going to be a big impact player for them. I think you throw him on a line with Keller and Cooley, that's probably going to turn into one of the best lines in hockey, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree with that. How they need a stronger guy similar to Chicago. I wouldn't put it past them even if they took Martone. And like if Frondell was taken in 3rd, I think Martone will definitely be a similar guy to Frondell that could be taken at 4th. I put Higgins just because I don't think he's going to drop. Martone could slot into that section, and James Higgins could be taken at 5th. I just think Higgins isn't. They're not going to let Higgins drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Craig here went Porter Martone.
Okay.
He flipped them.
Yeah.
And I think that there's still nothing wrong with that. I think, like you said, Martone is still going to be a great value pick for them, and I think he can definitely help out that core 3 array that you already got there. And I think that Utah Mammoth team has a very bright future ahead of them. They already showed this year that they can compete with the top teams. Obviously, they didn't make playoffs, but they can compete there. And I think you throw in another piece, maybe even get one more, at least a solid defenseman in there. You have Kesselring already, and you have Sergachev, but I think you just throw one more in there. Maybe throw obviously you have Connor Ingram and you have Vilmelka now, but I think maybe just a better goalie, and I think they'll have that winning team that they're looking for.
Yeah, I agree.
So for my 5th pick, this is where I went Higgins.
Yeah.
I think Higgins is a great player, and I think, in my opinion, just a little overhyped. I think he's a great player, don't get me wrong. He was incredible when he was young in the U18s, in that tournament against all the other countries and stuff like that. But I think he then goes and he plays college hockey with 2 of the best college hockey players in the entire, all of the U.S. And he just doesn't do enough for me in terms, obviously he still produced, he still did great, but he didn't shatter any records. He didn't, I still think when it comes to playing on a line with those top guys, I think he still should have stuck out a little bit more if he wanted to be that kind of higher pick that people think he's going to be. And still, don't get me wrong, I think he'll slot nicely into Nashville because obviously you got a lot of older guys on Nashville, and I think he could be that young blood that could really help them. Obviously, like you said, maybe not throw him in this year, maybe have him have one more year in college. But I could see them throwing him in this year, but maybe I think they should keep him back a little bit just to maybe not even keep him in college, put him in the AHL, let him develop a bit more into that kind of pure goal scorer that they want out of him.
Yeah, I can see that. I totally agree with that. I have Caleb Demoy there just because Higgins is taken. I have Higgins taken over. But yeah, I think he slots in well as well. I don't think Nashville lets him drop either. This kind of slot under these couple picks under 3rd, I think it's just up to we're taking the best available guy.
Yeah.
We can't let them drop, and I think that's in the sense that I think that's what Nashville is going to try and shoot for.
I think another thing is this top 5 going into this draft is probably one of the strongest they've had in a while. Well, maybe not. I think last year maybe it was a bit better, but I think in terms of you cannot go wrong with a single one of these guys coming up in this top 5. I think the last couple drafts you have obviously a defined top 3, but I think just with how tight the battle's been of who's going to go top 5 in this draft class, I think you cannot go wrong with any of these guys.
Yeah, I agree. Button's pick.
Button's pick, he actually went Roger McQueen here. Which is a fresh name in there. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think McQueen.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that either.
I think he's a great player. I think maybe he's just a little bit high. He did have a bit of an upside at the end of the year compared to like he was known but not too known in terms of you look at like middle of the year, but he really came on at the end of the year, and I think that's why why Button would bring him up here.
That would be a perfectly fine pick if he wasn't injury prone. He was injured, or I don't know if he's currently still injured, but I know there's an injury around sometime. I don't know when the injury occurred, but I know that he's dropped lower because of the injury. I know he was projected to go higher before the injury. That's all I know. I wouldn't have him that high up. But yeah, I think these couple picks, like I said, they're just going to try and get the best available player after who's taken.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, I guess, where Higgins fits in for you, or Caleb fits in for me, and I guess where McQueen fits for
Craig.
Craig.
On Craig's list.
Going into Philadelphia and pick number 6, I have Porter Martone. I think he definitely helped, strength-wise, light up that part of Philadelphia and that aspect, especially after giving away the guys that they gave away last year, and I like the way they're going into this year. I think they want to go more aggressive than playmaking and score. That's what I would see.
I could see them.
It goes either way.
I could see them doing that. I think especially because you lost Scott Lawton last year,
that's my mind.
who I think is obviously he showed that he can be that big kind of power bruiser, that fourth line grind guy that can really grind the puck out for you. And I think maybe you feel that with Martone a little bit, maybe not as much.
That's what I'm thinking.
I could see that, but I just don't think he's got that kind of mean side enough to him yet. Maybe in a few years he'll have that, but
that's what I'm. Yeah.
For me, I went Desnoyers here.
Yeah.
I think Desnoyers, obviously you have that great pick they got last year at 8 with his name now, the guy out of Russia. What's his name?
I can't remember.
Matvei Michkov.
Michkov.
That's what I was
How did you forget that? He was on your fantasy team.
Yeah, I know. He's on my fantasy team. I completely forgot who he was. But I think you put him and Desnoyers on a line together, I think that's a deadly combination.
I do agree.
I think you just have, maybe you throw us another guy on there, another guy that can really help pass, playmake a little bit more with those two. I think those two would be great together. I think they're going to be definitely kind of turn into that kind of Malkin Crosby dynamic. You have those two pure goal scorers. Well, obviously Crosby's a bit more of a playmaker than Desnoyers is, but I think Desnoyers can definitely transition into that role because you already got Michkov who lit up the league last year. Obviously, he's had a bit of trouble with Tortorella, but Tortorella's gone now.
Yeah.
So I think he'll definitely.
Oh, he'll definitely shoot.
I think he'll step up. There we go. That's what I was thinking. Craig here went Brady Martin.
Yeah.
Kind of a little off the board. I'm kind of surprised he took him up this high. I think, again, there's nothing wrong with that pick.
Oh, no,
I think
there's nothing wrong at all.
I think he's still going to be a great value pick for them because obviously you have that top guy in Michkov and you just kind of want someone to accent him this year. So I think Brady Martin will definitely help that.
Yeah. For number 7, the Boston Bruins, I have Jake O'Brien. I think he's I've been seeing things around on Reddit. Fans I think are really wanting Jake O'Brien. I think he slots in well with the younger guys that are left now on Boston after they shipped away everybody last year. I do think he will be good based off who I have taken ahead of him. I think he's definitely going to be the better of the rest to help start a rebuild with the younger guys, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I have Jake O'Brien as a good center for Boston's future.
I think, so for me here, I went Radim Murka. I think, obviously, you have Pastrnak, you're going to have him for at least another 4 or 5 years there. But you lost Carlo. You still have McAvoy, but you lost some of those key pieces on the defensive side, which I think really hurt them this year. I think their defense was definitely a big problem for them. So I think you slide Radim Murka in there. that defensive presence that can be in there for you.
Mhm.
That you might play well with McAvoy a bit more. I think he could definitely be a top guy, a top defenseman, at least top 4. And I think that's what you need in a guy like him.
Yeah, I agree. I see him also being a possibility for that list. I think, or for that slot. I think 6, like 1 to 6. I think those guys are all interchangeable for the most part. I think 7 and 8 is where things start to get iffy. I could see, Radam jumping up there and being in the 7th, and Jake being in the 8th, 9th, whatever. I do see that possibility. I do see them going after a defenseman. I know that McAvoy is pretty injury prone, so I'm not surprised if they do go after a defenseman.
I think the problem with that McAvoy injury that he had at the Four Nations, I think it wasn't handled very well, in my opinion. I think, obviously, Boston was not happy with that at all because of how the U.S. training staff took it. Because I think that was one of the reasons why he was out for so long, was because he had some infection that he got from it or something like that. But I think maybe, obviously, you do have the Olympics coming up next year, so he's going to be back with the U.S. again. I think he is. I could see that injury prone, but I think he's just that. He's that good that I think you can just ignore it. To be honest, obviously you can't fully ignore a guy that's like that, but he's so good on both sides of the puck. He's great defensively. He's great offensively. I think he's just going to be that type of guy.
Yeah.
Craig here went Caleb Desmoulins, so he drops to 7 for him. Again, we talked about Desmoulins already. He is a great player, and I think he will do great things in this league. Maybe a little low for him. Obviously, I only had him one spot higher, but I think he's still... He could slot into that Boston lineup very well with guys that you got on there already. You got Pasternak in there. I'm blanking on anybody else on Boston because they just lost so many guys, but I think he can definitely help that rebuild process for them.
I agree. Again, I do think it is a little low. I obviously he's putting him up there because he took Roger McQueen that high.
Yeah.
But I guess I could see the dynamic between that with that idea. But now going on to the 8th pick, the Seattle Kraken. I have Radom Murka only because, again, I could see him being taken at 7th. Like I said with Boston, 1 to 6, I think they're all interchangeable. I don't think anyone else goes in those slots. Based on my 1 to 6. But I could see Radom being taken 7th as that we can't let him drop type mindset for Boston. But for Seattle, I think they just instantly go after Radom. He's the second best defenseman available in the draft. I don't think anyone above, other than New York and San Jose, really need defensemen like that
desperately.
Urgently. They'd probably rather take a, if they're not going to go after a Radom, they're not going to go after a defenseman that's second to Schaefer over forward that's high up there. Anyways, I think they take a defenseman here. I know that their coach, I'm blanking on his name. They just hired him.
Seattle.
Yeah, the Leafs' old assistant head coach, the Islanders. No, assistant head coach for the Leafs last year, or the year before, and the Islanders.
Hold on.
I'm blanking on his name. But he's a defensive coach, so I'm not surprised if they do take Radom because of the defensive abilities and the way that the coach can work with his defensemen. So I think they're definitely going to try and go after a defenseman in the draft, and I think Radom being the second guy.
Dave Haxtell? Are you thinking of?
I don't recognize the name.
Sorry, Lane Lambert.
Lane Lambert, yes. He's a defensive coach, at least with the Islanders he was. So I think if he goes after the same kind of mindset of defensive play, I think they definitely want to take the second best defenseman in the draft for that reason.
Yeah.
So I have Radom there.
For me, I took Martin here. I took Brady Martin here.
Yeah.
I think he can slide in very well for a team that doesn't really have that offensive capability that they're looking for. Obviously, you did have that breakout year a few years ago with Beniers, but I think he took a big step back this year and didn't really have that offensive production that they would like. You still have Jared McCann, you still have Jaden Schwartz for a few more years, but I think you can definitely slide Brady Martin in there, and he could be that offensive threat that they're looking for.
Yeah, I could see that.
Craig here went James Higgins. He dropped him this far down, And I think it's just the fact, like I was talking about before, I think he is a great goal scorer, and I think he'll turn into a great goal
He's
scorer.
just not proven.
He's just not proven yet. He's not proven at those big levels that he can still score those big goals that teams need.
I can
And
see that.
again, like I said, he put on the best line in all college hockey. Like that line of you had him, you had Gabe Perreault, and I'm blanking on the last guy's name. But like the other two guys were definitely two of the best guys in all of college hockey. You throw James Higgins in there, that line should have been shut down.
Yeah.
Should have been the best line out of all of hockey. But I think Higgins definitely brought that line down a peg. And I think he just didn't prove enough of what he was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why Craig brought him this low. And again, I think he'd work well for Seattle. Still need that scoring threat that they need. And I think he could definitely bring that in. Just maybe not straight away.
I agree. All right, so for number 9, the Buffalo Sabres, I have Brady Martin here. Again, it's another thing. It's another case of we can't have him drop any lower. He's, again, really good. I could see him being taken first. Boston taking him in 7. I could see Seattle taking him in 8. He could be interchangeable with that, 7, 8, 9 section.
Yeah.
But I do think with who I have taken 7th and 8th, I do think he slots in with Buffalo. I don't know how well he would slot in with, Alex Tuck, JJ Paterka, Tage Thompson. I think he definitely will usher in something new. Because I do think that we are going to see some big trades coming out of Buffalo. Mm-hmm. So I think having some extra guys to come in there and, help that build up, I do see as a possibility. So I don't think Brady Martin is the biggest stretch or the biggest downfall for them if they do take him. I don't think there's anyone else that would be of that caliber that they could take. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if Jake O'Brien or Radimer could drop that low, then yes, definitely them. But I think Brady Martin fits in there, not perfectly, but well.
So I went Roger McQueen here. I think Roger McQueen is a great, complete two-way player, and he still has that offensive upside that Buffalo could look for. Because I think Buffalo, you already got a pretty good defensive core, because you obviously have Dahlin there, and you already have I keep blanking on their names. Owen Power.
Owen Power, yeah.
Like they have that kind of defense that they've already trying to bring up. So I think you take Roger McQueen here to be that two-way that can still help on defense, but also has that offensive upside that they're looking for. Because Tage Thompson has definitely taken a few steps back from his form a couple years ago. He's still going to be that great player, and I think if you throw Brady or Roger McQueen in there, I think that's going to make that offense just that much better. Because you already have top guys, and then you have JJ Paterka, you got Tage Thompson, you got Jordan Greenway even. You can throw him in there as well, even though he's kind of a bottom 6. But I think you throw Roger McQueen in there, and I think that could definitely change the dynamic of just showing that they really want to be that gritty team that will go in there and just grind down your defense to score goals, which I think is very Buffalo of them to do that, because they're not obviously the most flashy team, but they're that team that can punish you when it comes down low. Yeah. Craig here went Radim Murka, which not my favorite for me.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a great pick in terms of for Buffalo, because you already have a kind of solid decor, but I could see where you could slot in there. But to me, I think it's too low for me. I think he's got to be a bit higher.
I agree.
I don't think he's the second defenseman taken that low. I don't think that really makes much sense. Obviously, it is a very forward heavy draft class, even though you do have Schaefer as that top pick, but I think I don't think he's that low in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't see him going that low. The only way I see him going low, obviously, if the other teams pick forwards. Yeah. But I do think he can maybe slot in well with Byram. But Byram is in talk. Like there are rumors of Byram getting traded.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised too if he's taken at that. If obviously he's not taken prior. If Buffalo goes after him in that way because they want to fill in that that Byram kind of position. So it makes sense. I just don't think he's dropping that low. I don't think Boston's going to take... I don't think Boston's going to let... if they don't draft Jake O'Brien, I don't think they're letting him drop that low. I don't think Seattle's going to let him drop that low. Even Philly could go after him. I don't know. But I just don't see the second best defenseman dropping that low.
Yeah.
And now for 10, the Anaheim Ducks, I have Roger McQueen just because I think he'll look good in orange. I think he'll look good in orange. That's my main reasoning for McQueen. Also, a lot of Ducks fans. I really like the Ducks, especially with the Joel Quenneville signing. I'm like totally 100% on board for the Ducks. I think McQueen will definitely be definitely will be a good help for them. Again, he's another injury prone player, and Anaheim has a lot of injury prone players as of current.
Yeah.
Which might not be the best case for them, but I do think that a lot of fans too, like especially on Reddit, they want Roger McQueen. So I think he definitely slots in there pretty well.
I took Jake O'Brien here. I think Jake O'Brien is a great player, and I think where he can help them the most is in the faceoff dot. Anaheim ranked as one of the lowest teams when it came to faceoff win percentage, and I think Jake O'Brien he's a very good faceoff specialist. He can really help them in that area of where they lacked, because they already have a great forward core. I think you throw Jake O'Brien in there, who can help you win faceoffs, win those big draws in the offensive zone with a power play late in the game, and you need to win a draw. You throw him in there, and he can be very, very clinical on that draw, which can help you lead to a goal. So I think that's why they could take him to help fix that kind of area where they were lacking last year. So that's why I think they take Jake O'Brien. Craig took Victor Eklund here.
Really?
Which is, I see it as a bit of a surprise, but not really at the same time, because I think Victor Eklund is a great player.
I do think he's a great player, and I do think he is a type of player that be drafted that high. I don't think he goes super low. I have him on my list as lower.
Same.
But I do see an argument for him being drafted a little higher. But yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to lead into my next pick is Victor Eklund.
Oh yeah, number 11.
I have him going to Pittsburgh. I think he can help. So you already have Rutger McGroarty there, who's going to turn into a great player. Obviously, he didn't do much last year, but you're losing Sid and Malkin in the next few years. Not to mention also Letang's going as well. This is a team that really needs to find their footing in where they want to rebuild, because kind of everything's going down right now. The ship's kind of just crashing, and they need to enter that rebuild. And obviously, like that core three of Sid, Malkin, and Letang are all leaving. Your goaltending hasn't really been doing much for you either, but obviously it's way too high to take a goalie. You'd probably take them second round, maybe even take like Jack Ivankovic or something. Maybe take them in like second round. But if we're looking at terms of first round, I think Victor Eklund could definitely be that Jesper Bratt kind of player that can maybe not be the most flashy, but he can definitely feed like a top guy. Like maybe in terms he wouldn't be the top guy. I think you maybe wait till maybe drop like tank next year again to maybe even try and get a Gavin McKenna first overall. And I think that he could really work well with them. I think that he's just not that first guy that you look to score a goal. He obviously can do that, but I just don't think that's what they want him to do.
Yeah, I have Lyndon Lakovic over William Eklund.
Wow, that's a surprise.
I know.
I wouldn't see him that high.
I was debating not. The only reason I do is because I've done a little bit of researching into where Pittsburgh's trying to head towards, and I've just been seeing his name a decent amount of times, especially on Reddit too. So I have him there. I don't have any other reasoning really. I have it just solely based on what I've seen and read. But yeah, I think Eklund being there too is definitely good. And I don't see a world where like they're interchangeable. I don't see a world where they don't go either one. For me, I have Linden over Eklund.
Jake O'Brien went here for Craig.
Oh yeah?
He went Jake O'Brien here, which is, I think Craig is definitely, he liked Roger McQueen and Brady Martin and had them a lot higher, so I think that's why he dropped a lot of the guys like James Hagens, Radom Murphy, like all these guys lower. I think that, again, he's still going to be a great guy for them. He's going to be that great face-off specialist that they're looking for, because they're going to be losing Sid, obviously, and Malkin's going as well. But I don't know if I really see Jake O'Brien going this low. I think he could probably go a little bit higher, maybe one or two spots.
Yeah.
But he still would be a great value pick for them. I think this kind of late, they obviously finished this low in the lottery, but I think you tank next year and you maybe get a top 3 pick, hopefully. And I think they could definitely have a good team and build that team up from the ground, which they're going to have to do because they're losing guys. But I think he can be definitely a good starting point for them. So for New York, I had Malcolm Spence here.
Oh yeah.
I went Malcolm Spence a little bit higher. I know he was quite a bit lower on most people's mock drafts, but I think he was great with Erie this year, and obviously he's going to be great with Michigan next year because he signed with them and he's going to be going there next year. So obviously he won't be jumping straight to the NHL, but I think you give him at least one more year of development in a league like college hockey. You then throw him into like the AHL or something the year after. I think he can turn into that great core goal scorer that they have. They already have Panarin, obviously, but he's kind of been a little shaky for them. Like New York needs to have a bounce back year, and a bounce back few years. Honestly,
Yeah.
they have a great team. They have a great team. But the problem is they're struggling in so many areas where they definitely shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like goal scoring, even the goaltending side. You have a former Vezina winner, and yet he's kind of struggling a little bit. And I think you need that year to kind of figure it out, which is next year. And that's why I think you bring Malcolm Spence in the year after that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think because they have a great team, they just need to kind of figure it out for the next year. Next year, I think kind of be a transition year for them. Maybe they trade off a few guys, maybe bring in some other ones. And I think you bring Malcolm Spence in fresh the year after once they've kind of figured out their problems next year.
Yeah, I could see that. For me, I put Kashawn Aitchison. Just because I think building up that D front wouldn't be the worst case in the world. I could see that being the case as well with Spence. I just think right now the forwards that they have can do so much better. Like they did last year, this year being a total,
Just fall off.
fall off. I think it's just an off year for them. I think this coming year, if they don't bounce back forward wise, I think that they just need to do something about that in that sense. But I think getting a defenseman in with those guys will definitely help them get back to what they were last year, coming off of this atrocious year for the Rangers. But Craig's pick.
Craig went with Jackson Smith.
A little higher than I would have.
That's what I was saying. I have him lower.
Yeah.
I'm starting to. I think Craig's gotten a little greedy here in these bottom picks, but I don't know. I could see Jackson Smith going this high, but then again I can't. Like
Yeah. Again,
it-
these picks, maybe like 10, like from 11 onwards. I think they're all really just solely based on individual player stats, like who they think will fit better, and it's not going to be a sense where it's like one guy's better than the other. It's more of just like who do we think has the better chemistry, or who can fit better with our group, because I think all these guys are interchangeable to an extent. But yeah, I don't have Smith even on my list.
really.
So I see that as kind of a little bit weird. But again, I could see him going in any of these slots lower than 11, so I don't see it as like too weird, but it's a little yeah.
So Detroit, I went Keyshawn Atchison here. I think he could become a deadly defensive duo with Moritz Seider because they're both very physical. They are two physical defensemen. I think you put those two together, and if I was a forward in the NHL, I wouldn't want to go into a corner with them because I think you're not coming out with at least a few bruises because they are just that physical force. And maybe you don't put them together, but even just them on the same team, like that is just a physicality nightmare.
It'll definitely bring up their PK. I know their PK percentage is terrible. I know that they're like one of the bottom teams for penalty kills. Power plays, I think they're one of the better, but I think penalty kills, I think that's a good point. I didn't see that before, so I could see him going to Detroit as well.
I think another thing is too is you take a D here because like you already have a solid forward core. You still have Larkin. You'll have DeBrincat for another few years. Kane's gonna be probably maybe 2, maybe 1, depending on how much longer he's really wanting to play. But then you still got guys. You got Andrew Kopp in there. You still have a few decent forward guys throughout there. I think your defense is really good. Where you got to look at your goaltending. Like their goaltending isn't bad necessarily, but it's not good either.
Yeah,
But
like
again, still way too early to talk about goaltending in terms of the
yeah,
draft.
in terms of draft. For me, this is where I have Victor Eklund.
Hmm.
I think for me it's a little low. I don't see. I could see him going in 11. I could see him going in 12. I could see him going in 13. I don't think he drops any lower than that. I
Hmm.
think he does. He would fit well with the forwards in Detroit. Um, Based off what you've been saying, I could even see like from 11 to 13. I could agree with your list. Um, but yeah, I have Victor Eichmann here. I think he definitely fit in well with Detroit, and yeah, I don't see him dropping any lower.
Yeah. So Craig here went Cole Reshny,
Hmm,
which I think is definitely an interesting pick here.
that is definitely interesting. Very interesting.
I have him on my board, just obviously not this high. I also probably butchered his name. But I think he could definitely slot in there nicely. Let me figure out. I don't even remember if he's a forward or a defense. I think because we're getting to that point where like a lot of these guys are kind of toss ups of where they're gonna go. They could turn into great players, but hold on.
It's a lot of these lower picks that like you'll see like if you look at all the good NHL players now or like the big names, they were all drafted not low, but they
But at
were
least
all
not
drafted
high either.
like bottom 10.
That's the
Like
thing.
wasn't Nylander drafted 13th or something or
No, it was eighth.
eighth? Yeah, eighth. I mean, eighth's not high, but it's not low either. But like again, like I think Pasternak wasn't he 13?
Yeah,
Yeah, like these guys are drafted a little lower.
he's a forward that's committed to the University of North Dakota. So obviously they won't have him next year. They'll have him the year after that.
Yeah.
But I think that what's it called? I think that he could like again. A lot of these guys now you're getting into guys that are gonna be like probably not jump straight to the NHL next year. Probably either do one more year of junior, one year of university or college hockey before they fully jump up, or maybe even a year in the AHL. So I think you're kind of at that point where these guys need to have a bit more development, but you don't want to let them drop too low because then someone else is going to scoop them up. And that's kind of the rest of my list. Honestly, is a lot of these guys are guys that obviously won't make a huge impact in next year, or even the year after that. But I think they could make an impact at some point.
Yeah, like players that you want to scoop up for a couple years in the future. Like I know like a couple of the rookies on like Chicago, for example, they were drafted a little later in a couple years ago in those drafts, which we're now seeing they're playing and they're not terrible. They're doing pretty decent. They're actually like Frank Nazar, who's going crazy, especially on Team USA. So
Honestly, I won't
Yeah.
even lie. These last three picks for me are kind of just like they can go anywhere really. In my opinion, I kind of just threw them in here because I think that they will turn into great players. I just don't think they're there yet. So for me, my last three picks, I went Jackson Smith for Columbus. I went Justin Carbonneau for Vancouver, and then I went Cole Reshny for Montreal. So I think all those guys you can kind of interchange them. I think that they are going to be great players. But I just don't think that they are going to be as high of an impact as some other players like Malcolm Spence, Keyshawn Aitchison, like in this lower end of this lottery.
yeah, I see what you mean. For me, in 14th for Columbus, I have Logan Hensler.
Yeah.
You know, another defenseman I think that would be added to their forward groups. They have a couple older guys in their forward
They're
sense.
definitely lacking on the defensive aspect.
Yeah, they're definitely lacking on defense. I think that will definitely help them. I think their forwards like they can last for a couple more years,
like 3 or 4.
but I don't think those I think getting forwards now isn't going to help. I think helping out on the defensive side definitely will be better. So I have Logan Hensler there. For Vancouver, I have Carter Bear. Again, another guy that could be interchangeable with a couple of these picks. And then for Montreal, I have Justin Carbonneau. Again, another future guy that can definitely slot in there with the younger guys. And, you know, again, these picks, at least from 11 to 16, I think are all interchangeable.
Yeah.
I 14 and 16, again, really anyone lower than that, too, are also interchangeable in that sense.
One other thing is obviously nobody in the NHL has a looking glass and can see into the future of where these guys, because these guys could turn into that Pasternak or that Kucherov that are taken lower in the draft. But right now they're just not showing it comparatively to other guys. It doesn't mean they can't. They definitely very well could, and they could be that kind of sleeper pick that was when you look back at this draft in 4 or 5 years from now saying, oh, why did nobody take them any higher? I think that they're going to be great. I just don't think they're showing it, and they need a bit more development.
Yeah, I agree.
So Craig here for the last picks, he went Justin Carbonneau,
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm Spence, and Keishon Atchison.
Okay.
Which I can see them, but I think Malcolm Spence and Keishon Atchison, I think they're higher than the last 3 guys that I had in there.
Yeah.
I think they're just a little bit, not that they're a little bit more well known. I just think that they've got more of a presence to them than the other 3 guys do, and I think that they could definitely make it more of an impact, in my opinion.
Like something I've been seeing with all these lists is just a lot of these guys are like they're all interchangeable. I think we have similar lists. At least the guys on the lists are the same. It's just a matter of where they're slotted.
Yeah.
I think that's something that like with other draft classes I think isn't really seen. I think it's more so just like let's scoop the best guy available. But
there's just so many good guys.
There's so many good guys, and there's so many like interchangeable. There's players that play similar. Like it's just it depends on what each team needs and who they prefer. Again, each team goes out. They have like dinners, lunches. They go out with like certain players. They like they talk to each player. They
could be like matter of personality over.
Exactly. It could be It could be matter like if they need room presence. Like we don't know exactly how the locker rooms act. So we don't know exactly if teams are going off of, they have what skill level they want, but they want maybe, a more, head forth personality where they're trying to go straight for like, they have goals, right? Or players that more like, Will Smith and Celebrini who are just like, let's have fun while we build the skill. So again, these guys are interchangeable. These lists are, they're pretty solid. I think the draft, I think it'll look different from our lists.
But I think there'll obviously be a few more kind of guys that'll come off the board.
Yes.
But I think that our lists are decent. I think if you have any better lists, you want to share them to us, go right ahead.
Yeah.
But I think our lists are still pretty good right now. And honestly, let us know if you change anything on our list. We'll put our list just up above our heads probably, or somewhere in the video, and you'll see them. And I think that honestly, if you want to change it, tell us where you change it.
Yeah,
I think
we have like
we'd love some feedback on this.
Yeah, we'd love feedback as well. We're gonna have our posts on Instagram as well, at least our top 10. So obviously share your feedback there. But yeah, I think something I wanted to go into just before we end is go just through our top 5, not our top 5 of players we think are going to get drafted with the team, but just players in the draft overall. At least for me, it's not going to be...
Like, who do we think are going to turn into those top 5 guys that come out of this draft?
Yes. I for me, it's not going to be my top 5 picks.
No, it's not.
Definitely some of them. But I think, like, top 5 just in general, that, like, just based off what I've seen and what I've liked, I have a top 5. I don't know if you have a top 5.
I do.
But we're going to, like, just before we end, I want to get into that. For me, obviously, number 1, I have Schaefer.
Yeah, same for me. I think I'm assuming your 2 is Misa as well.
I was about to say.
I think 1 and 2 are pretty locked in at those 2, but I think after that it kind of moves up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think for me 3, I went James Higgins here. I think he can turn into that great player. I just think right now he's being a bit rushed, and they're not letting him develop enough. So I think like Nashville, because I had him going to Nashville, I think that they might rush him a little bit, and which I don't think is where he should be. I think he's going to be a great player, don't get me wrong. I think he's just a little bit too immature in terms of for the NHL yet. I just don't think his skills have gotten up to that level. I think they will. I think he just needs more time.
Yeah, for me, I have Frondell. Again, yes, that's my top 3. But I think players-wise, like just best players in the draft as of right now that I've seen, I think those top 3 are definitely in the top 5 of like best available picks. Again, certain teams are gonna like the reason why actually after this I don't have the picks that I had in my list. Like I don't have James Higgins 4th, and I don't have Caleb Demoy in 5th, but it's just a matter of what teams need, which is how I based off the draft list. But for top 5 in general, I have Frondell at 3. I have Porter Martone in 4.
That's where my 4 is as well.
And then I have Radamurka 5th. I have him lower on my draft list, but I think for top 5 best players in the draft, I think he's definitely a sleeper, and I think whoever gets him definitely is going to have a step up in their defense.
For me, my 5 is a huge jump for me. I think he jumps probably about 6 or 7 spots is Malcolm Spence.
Really?
I love Malcolm Spence as a player. I think he's going to, especially, I think he's going to be very good. He's going to develop very well in Michigan. Again, very big Michigan fan, so huge like bias on this, but I think because Michigan has some of the best facilities in all of college hockey, I think that he can really grow and develop in that program.
Yeah.
That he could turn into a very great player that could probably even be a top line guy at some point.
All right, so that's our draft. Those are our draft lists. I think they're pretty decent.
I think so.
We're gonna see next week, obviously with the draft. We're gonna see how well our lists do come up against obviously the draft. We'll probably have another member with us, maybe two, when we watch the draft. So they might bring lists, they might not. But I guess we'll have our lists going not against each other, but we'll see who gets the most correct. Yeah, so be ready for next week, either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We're gonna be doing our draft reactions.
Yes.
And our comparisons.
And our recap as well.
And yes,
at the end.
and our recap.
At least over the first round, because we probably won't look too hard in the second and third round.
Yeah.
Because those guys will probably turn into great players, but just not as high.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for watching, and
Yeah.
we will
Hope
see
you guys
you again
enjoyed it,
soon.
and yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.